Hello, and welcome back to the Simplifiers podcast, where we take topics in work and in life and simplify them. And friends, as you know, we have been interviewing some superstars out there in the world, talking all about what in the world is happening in the job market these days. And today's episode is no different. My special guest is going to simplify how to stand out as a top candidate for a job. Because let's face it, there are 80 bazillion people out there applying for the same job that you are, right? Like it feels like that. So how do we do the best to ensure that we are being seen by these recruiters and notice and the beyond that, getting their foot in the front door for those interviews? So my special guest today, her name is Shreya Mehta, and she is a talent acquisition partner and a professional growth coach. She has worked with companies like TikTok, Amazon, and Microsoft, and she's passionate about candidate experience and standardizing hiring training. Now, she's worked with over 2,700 individuals in their mid-career for their next step by providing mock interviews, resume building, and LinkedIn optimization. Plus, she helps to empower professionals all across the US to be more passionate about storytelling and using their voice effectively to communicate their work and life experiences in their interviews. So I'd like to welcome to the Simplifiers podcast, Shreya Mehta. Hey, Shreya.
Hey, Mary, how's it going?
I am so excited that you're here because I've been following your work on LinkedIn for the last couple of months and super impressed by the things that you share with job seekers out there. I mean, I find it's really tangible how-to knowledge to help you shorten this gap when you're in transition from one job to another.
Absolutely. And nothing gives me more pleasure than letting people know that how important it is that they stand out, and there are different tools and strategies to do it. Of course, resume, LinkedIn, all of that. And then comes the storytelling piece of it. So I'm so glad that we're getting to speak about it today so that more people can actually benefit from everything that we share online otherwise.
I hope so. And like legit, I want us to go deep, deep, deep. So people that are listening to us right now, get a piece of paper and a pen. You're going to take some notes. And I hope you guys try these things out, not just talking kind of general terms. And it does feel like this, though, that there are 80 bazillion people out there, talented people that are applying for jobs. Let's say 500 applications in the first 24 hours that a job is posted, especially remote roles. Those are very, very hot right now. Let's start there. How can a candidate craft a compelling resume and an application that really stands out?
That's such a great question, isn't it? Because now in a world where most of the things are hybrid, let's say not completely virtual, we're not getting to meet people as much. So references have, of course, have gone down a little bit more because we've not worked with these people personally. So what happens? How can you actually craft a resume? I would really say let's just structure it into five most important points, right? First one would definitely be make sure that your resume has those keywords that the roles is looking for. Why? Because then a recruiter is going to do an internal search with those keywords. And that's important because, Mary, if I have 500 applications and resumes, I might want to look at all of these, but I probably want to look at the most important ones today. And that's where the keyword is extremely important. Second is my version of AI, which is action and impact. So make sure all of those bullet points have the action. So you collaborated with someone, you executed something, but what's the impact of it, of whatever you did, right? So what's that action and what's that impact that needs to be there on your resume? Extremely important. Third, lesser text, more white space. When I say that, that means don't make it text heavy, where you want a recruiter to know everything that you are doing or have you done. Make sure that it's relevant to the role, but then also make sure that that you remember that's the human reading it. It's not a robot, it's not a machine reading it. And they want to make sure that something that they see doesn't have a lot of text. Then make sure that the font and the format is really pretty. And when I say pretty, I don't mean color, design, or anything. I just make that it's pretty for the eyes. When they read it, they don't feel irritated. They don't feel it's all over the place. I see resume, I see formats where the date is somewhere else, the time is somewhere else. And then when I say time, as in the time period of your job, and then there are no specific sections where I'm looking at. So it's always great to have 5, 6 defined sections. When you start with professional summary, you go into education if you're a recent graduate, and then go to their work experience if you're academic, project, freelancing. depending on the role or where you are in your career, make sure you have specific sections, because then as a recruiter, I know where do I want to look at, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, different sections. Make sure you have a professional summary if you have 3+ years of experience, because then I just want to read that and I want to understand, is this a person that we're looking at? Do they have the expertise we are looking into? Why do I say it if you have 3+? Because if you don't have that, then your professional summary is going to look more like an objective statement. And I think which is kind of not the idea of a resume, because everybody knows that you want to work for a great company who gives you challenges, who's fast paced, and everybody writes that. Don't be
Yeah.
that generic person. Find that actually stands out for you as a candidate. And I'll give everybody a tip here. When you're writing down your resume, write down 5 professional qualities that you're proud of yourself, right? So if I was a recruiter, I'll have to talk about it. I would say candidate experience. I love that. Stakeholder management. I love that piece. Third, what is more important for me is empathy, because I just don't want to think from the company's perspective or the candidate's perspective. I want to think from both the perspectives. So what makes you stand out? 5 of those qualities, and that should be in their resume. So I think, yeah, that would be my highest tips for especially resume, because I know it's the most important thing right now.
And so I love that. And all of the things that you shared are so great. Let's break it down bit by bit. First off, how would one find what the keywords are for a specific job posting? Are you using AI or something else?
Yes to AI, yes to the job description, and then yes to Google. Those would be my 3 points to actually look at it. First, I would definitely look at the job description, find out what are those, let's say, 3 pointers that they're looking at. Is it related to sales? So then that's going to be communication, there's going to be partnership, there's going to be building relationship. If it's relating to product marketing, that's going to be roadmap, that it's going to be launching, that's going to be, again, collaboration, stakeholder. So I want to make sure what is the job description is looking at. Second, I would definitely go to the real AI, not my version of AI, but then the AI, and look into it that this is the job description. What are the keywords? So what I'll do is keywords for, and then probably copy the whole job description. And then there'll be 20 or 25 keywords they would give. Try not adding the generic one. Try adding the ones that are non-generic and relates to your work. So there needs to be and that it is related to my work and also non-generic. When I say generic, that means strong relationship, hardworking, challenging environment, ambiguity. Don't write all of these things, because this is what the world is. This has become the new normal now. Everybody is working under challenging situations. And then the third thing would definitely be Google, because on Google, you will find more jobs like those. And then they would give you a very generic list of keywords, which is used by all the industry, not just one specific job description. So you would understand that, then you don't have to tailor the resume for each role that you're applying to. It's a more, it's a wider scope that way. So I would say these 3 places for sure.
Yeah, I have been using ChatGPT for the last couple of months and honing in on prompts. And by the way, earlier this year in January, anyone that's listening, we did a episode called 5 AI Tools to Help You Get a Job. You can find that at the show notes at thesimplifiers.com. But and that's also that bonus episode has some sample prompts that you can cut and paste. That is exactly that. So it's assuming you are a recruiter of 10 years, what are the key 3 keywords and the key skills and responsibilities for this job description, and then you plug in the actual full job description. And ChatGPT is very interesting. It blows my mind what it can do, because then it parses it for you and says, okay, well, these are the keywords that keep popping up over and over again for this role. So you want to make sure that you're highlighting those key skills, those keywords as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we were talking about it, I also thought of another thing that I asked my clients to do, which is you go to LinkedIn, just under the quotes, type the role that you're looking for. So I'll go ahead and write product managers. And then what would happen that all the product managers would pop up. And then I can go and check in their work experience. What are those skills? What are those keywords that they might be using? And why did they pop up as my first search or my second search, or the top list for my search. So that would give you an idea of what kind of keywords or skills or words that they are using in their profiles, which is also a great way, because I know a lot of job seekers spend a lot of time on LinkedIn. They just don't strategize this pretty well. What they do is like randomly send connections and of course apply to a job. And I'm not saying I've not been there. I have been there. I know how tricky it is. Like you think that, oh, if you're spending 5 hours on LinkedIn, it's going to convert into something like a real job interview, maybe. But you just have to strategize it really well so that you're investing your time correctly. So you would get the return then.
1,000%. As more and more people are out there posting great stuff in LinkedIn, guess what? It's just like it was in Facebook 10 years ago, where you're doom scrolling and you're spending an obscene amount of time and effort into finding the Easter egg of a job that's posted, and you feel exhausted mentally and physically exhausted after spending that much time desperately looking. So I think you're right. You have to be incredibly strategic on, I'm going to pop into LinkedIn. I'm going to connect with these 5 people today, send them targeted messages, like and comment on their posts, become a name that they recognize in their feed as somebody that's, really enjoying and reading their stuff. And that's about it, right? Is there anything else that people should be doing in LinkedIn beyond that?
Oh, so many things. But now when you're talking about it, like, how do you find those 5 connections, right? As a job seeker, I can be like, Mary, Shreya, tell me, how do I find these five connections? How do I know that they are someone who's going to add value, and vice versa? So I would say that go to the search box, under the quotes, write hiring, or under the quotes, write open for role, and then just type what kind of people you're looking for, what kind of industry experts do you want to connect, and then just write those titles. And we're talking about product managers, so let's just say quotes, hiring product managers. So everybody who is hiring under their profile as product managers, they would pop up. So these are your 5 connections that you would want to connect with. And like you said, engage with them, not just connect as a request, but connect with their content, connect with what they're doing. If they're inactive, that's totally fine. Out of 5 people, 2 of them are inactive, especially if they have a very stable job. If they don't know what to do on LinkedIn, then they might be inactive, which is okay. But find people who are kind of active where you can engage with their content. Why? Because as soon as you comment, the 10 other people who have commented on their profile, on their post, would see you and would see you again and again, day after day. And then you would start showing up on their news feed as well, because then they'll be like, oh, Shreya has commented on Mary's post. Now you and Mary are connected. Now, what is Shreya saying every day? I really want to read who she is. Now that's the fun part. What does that do is, one, they come to your profile, they like it or not like it. That's a secondary thing. But algorithm would start pushing up your profile because you are kind of high on the search. People are clicking. So that click thing is extremely important. So yes, be there on 5 hours or 15. That's a choice. We can't change that. But make sure that you're utilizing, you're strategizing those hours well, where you're investing and not just, like you said, doom scrolling it, because all of us have the tendency that, oh, we spend 5 hours, nothing is turning. But what did you do those 5 hours? So I would say yes, comment. 2, yes, connect. 3, reflect back. Did that change anything? Did I add value? Did anybody else add value for those 5?
And I have found for myself, as I continue to follow certain folks on LinkedIn, I am really targeted on following recruiters. Obviously, those are people that are booking interviews, and if they are the people that are at my, say, top 20 or 25 companies that I'd like to work for, even better. But I think to your point, it is great also to find non-recruiters who work at your target companies as well, like the product managers or PMs or otherwise, because that's the people that are going to be, if you build a relationship with them through networking, those are the people potentially that are going to be able to internally refer you to that job when the job comes available. So yes, build the relationship with the recruiter, but also building a relationship with that internal person so that when they submit your resume as an application through their internal system, 9 times out of 10, correct me if I'm wrong, Shreya, that application goes to the top of the pile to the recruiter, right?
Yes. So references, that's how it works. So like if somebody has referred you and then your resume is kind of fit for the role, then the recruiters would definitely call you and kind of would have a preference over the other candidates, because it's coming from an internal someone, and then they think that, oh, but the big trick is that your resume should fit for the role. It's
Yes.
not like that, oh, if somebody has referred, the recruiter has to call. No, the recruiters can take the judgment call that the resume and the role matches, they're a good fit. And then the second step is like, oh, let's honor the reference that we got from our own employee. That's extremely important. And why do we actually touch base with or like follow the industry experts? Another good point is now because when they're posting something, Mary, we kind of understanding what's happening within the company, what is the culture. So now when I'm
Yes.
speaking with you, you're like, oh, this is the culture, this is what I've heard. And you're not just reading blind reviews or asking colleagues or like people, you actually have an insider who's posting on LinkedIn, right? And now you have information about the company. If they're posting, this is my 5 years in the company and these are the milestones, you can actually talk about that to a recruiter and be like, hey, I have loved your company for this reason.
Yes.
Talk to me about your experience. So you can bring all those information to your call as well, to your to your own LinkedIn posts as well.
It's a completely different energy that you bring to your job search when you do these steps rather than just sort of, I hate to say it, but it feels a little bit desperate to just constantly scroll through LinkedIn and hoping and praying somebody will say something about, hey, I'm hiring now. Like this feels very strategic and very pointed and empowering as well. So, yes, 100% of what you just said, if I have noticed that one of my target companies, they just released their corporate responsibility report from 2023, I'm going to take the time to read it. I'm going to see, what are they actually doing in the way of reducing their carbon footprint or, and really driving DEI initiatives or community outreach. And guess what? That's what I'm going to talk about at every single touch point with the recruiter there until I get an interview and during the interview process as well. I'm really doing my homework. I'm showing up fully prepared, passionate about the company. And wouldn't you say that would help me stand out as a candidate?
Absolutely, that would. And that's also like conversational starter points, right? It's like when you're having conversation with someone, you can actually say that these are the values that I actually align with, or these are the
Yes.
values that I resonate with. And this is why I love the company, because all of us hear this, that why this role, why this company. And it can make a lot of difference when you say that, oh, I love this company because they have great innovative or like initiatives that they're taking. But if you say that, oh, I read the last report and this numbers came up, and I think that this really aligns with where my career trajectory is heading into, then
Yes.
the recruiter is going to be like, oh, they have done their research. They, like they're really interested. And it's not just that we are just another application for them. And that really matters because that shows how enthusiastic you are about this role rather than this just being another blanket approach for the application. And I would really want to say that as well, because that also gives you an idea like that's the elimination process. This is a company that I do not want to work with. This is just
Right.
going to be a practice interview, and I'm going to practice and come out of it because a lot of candidates do it. We cannot deny that, right? A lot of us do it where it's more of a practice interview, and we know we're not going to take the role because we kind of don't like it, but we also want to do it. So it's also helps us in eliminating such companies that, oh, the culture, the values kind of doesn't align, or a lot of things like that, right? So yes, it helped in elimination as well.
Okay, so now I want to get to brass tacks. So a person has found a job at one of their target companies that they're really, really interested in. They're like, yes, I am qualified for it. And yes, I want to apply for it. So the question, the $80 billion question is, do they build a relationship with the recruiter first or do they apply for the job first? Is it better to connect with a recruiter before they've posted a job and like to build that relationship? And if so, how do you do that professionally?
Yeah, I think that's a great question again, because now there's a two approaches to it, right? So if you're already connected with a recruiter, if you're that natural person who are engaging with their content, who's out
Mhm.
there every day, then you don't have to build a connection. There's a connection already. Now you would not know about a role until a recruiter or a company posts it, right? You would not know it until unless you have an internal source. You would never know about a role that's going to be open for public. If you don't have a relationship with a recruiter already, then I
Yeah.
would really suggest go apply to the role, take the note of the job ID, take the note of the email that you applied with. And a lot of people don't know about it. So we'll talk about the email as well. But take a note of these two things. Of course, the title of the role as well. and then go to the recruiter. And if you are connected with them, already have a, connection with them, you can be like, hi, this is what I saw. And these are the details. I would love to hear more about it if you are related with the role directly. If you are not, it'll be great if you can direct me to the right recruiter.
Yeah.
Just that. I have seen people writing 500 paragraphs. Nobody reads that. I'm sorry, as a recruiter, I probably get like tens of DMs every day. And I'm not going to say hundreds because I know recruiters do get hundreds as well. But I get tens of DMs every day. And I probably would not be able to read each one of them, do justice to each one of them, and send them to the right recruiter until you're giving me the job ID, you're giving me the title, you're giving me the information so that I don't have to do your work. That's
Yep.
one. But if you don't know the recruiter at all, the same approach, the email ID, the job ID, and be like, hey, I have applied for this role. I see that you work for the company. I'm not sure if you're the right recruiter, and apologies if you're not. Can you direct me to the right person? I'm just trying to find a great role
Yeah.
for myself. Again, you're just being very respectful about their time. You're about respectful about your job search. Like you said, you're not sounding desperate. And I know there's a very thin line of difference between enthusiasm and desperation. We just
Mhm.
need to understand, looking at the script that we're sending, that does it look like we're very desperate? Because what people do is like, this is who I am, this is what the work I've done. And if I'm not the right recruiter, I'm not going to read it. And
Yeah.
that's where the desperation comes into, right? And
Yeah.
I've got, always attach your resume, which says that it's your resume rather than saying xyzzz.pdf. I don't know why people do it.
Mhm.
Always say Shreya underscore Mehta dot PDF. That's what the resume should be called. Like, it should be under your name and not. I have seen people saying Shreya draft 15th, 2023. And I was like, oh
Yes.
my God, you have 15 drafts of your resume. What are you
Yes.
doing? Right? Don't do that. So just write your name and then send it out there, and make sure that you send out the email that you applied with.
Mm.
Internally, that's how we search candidate. I'm not going to search Shreya Mehta. There will be hundreds of them, maybe. I'm just going to search the email ID, and then everything would pop up in terms of the roles that you applied for, the last you interviewed with the company. That's how the ATS system works, right? So it's helpful. But now let's go to, if you don't know the recruiter and there is a job posted, what do you do? Because a lot of times you don't know the recruiter and you just have a job, you just see the job. So you just apply to it and honestly just wait for it. But meanwhile, try finding recruiters and industry experts from that company, that industry, and connect with them. Start engaging with them. Within 4 or 5 days, things would change, and you probably would also find a recruiter, probably connected to that role. So one, if you don't know the recruiter, then this is the approach. You apply and wait. But if you know the recruiter, you should definitely DM them with the email, with the PDF, and with a very small script of, with the job ID, that why do you think this might be a great fit, and how you would wait for their response.
I think it's so smart to talk about it, keeping it concise, because no one reads. And I can't imagine the volume that some recruiters, especially at very large companies and brands, that, the talent pool is vast and the competition is, stiff. So you've got to be concise in what you're pushing out. And I think I just really want to highlight what you said there. When you are sending out those direct messages to recruiters, the job title, the job ID or rec number specifically, and your contact information in that, with your name, your email, and your cell phone number, and also attaching your resume to that message, I think makes a lot of sense, because then it's all there for them. They're not going to try to have to search and find and look, especially if they're not the recruiter that's assigned to the role, right?
Absolutely. And while we're talking the do's, I also want to talk about the don'ts. Um,
Yes.
the biggest piece for me is, do not go to a recruiter's profile and be like, hi, I know that your company is hiring. Please find a role and reach out to me.
Yeah.
Why? Why am I finding a role for you and reaching out to you when I have 500 applications who've already applied, right?
Mm.
And then if you want me to do that, then probably drop your resume, drop the roles, the titles that you might be looking at, that, hey, I'm looking for business developers slash I'm looking at product managerial position. I have 5 years of experience. Here is my resume. I see there's some open roles, but I don't know whom to contact. Do
Mm.
not throw it at me that, and maybe you're not finding the job IDs. I totally get it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go find a product manager recruiter who hires product managers. And then I'm going to go give it to them and be like, hey, I had this in my LinkedIn DM today. I'm not sure if it's, if it's useful, but here it is. They're just going to find what they can do with it. And I at least have done that. Oh, because if I look at the resume, it says product manager. But what if I don't know that you want it to be a PMM or you want it to be a PM position, right? People switch careers all the time.
Mm.
I'm not going to assume it for them. So definitely don't do it. Second, do not go to their posted content and be like, "Hi, I have DM'd it to you. Please, why are you not replying?" Because you have 100 other things to do.
Yeah.
And they're not here on LinkedIn to just reply. They are a person, they're a professional, they have a career to look at as well. And your DMs might be the second priority when they come to LinkedIn. So don't go to their content. I have things on my content and be like, "Oh, why are you posting it here when you haven't replied to my DM?" And I was like,
Mm.
"Sorry, mom. Like, I didn't know that was the most important thing to do, right?" And I did feel for a moment like I was angry. And then I realized I've been there. Why am I angry? Like, these people are not getting responses. Unfortunately, the market, they're getting ghosted. But don't do it because you're only setting up a not so good impression of a profession.
That's
Never
right.
forget you're a professional also. I get it. We talk a lot about the human aspect of us, but never forget that you are a professional. The other person is also a professional. They're not going to take any bad comments very lightly. And in this
That's
world, no one's going to take it lightly.
and it's like literally a permanent record thing. So your name is being associated to your frustration. Why haven't you responded? All of that for sure. So wait, let's break this down even further because I think this is a hot topic. So in LinkedIn, it's best to have a LinkedIn premium account, so that allows you to send in mail credits for where you can message a recruiter who isn't a first connect for you. But when you go into the messaging side of LinkedIn, there are two inboxes. There is your primary inbox, and then there's what's called an other inbox. And I just imagine that all of our in-mail messages, those DMs that are getting sent to recruiters that you're not a first connect with, is just falling into this black hole of doom, basically. True or false?
So I would say true and false both. So I think it's also if LinkedIn is flagging someone for sending out multiple emails or sending out random messages to people saying that, "Hi, find a role to me," probably would fall under the other ones because I've had emails from unknown and third connection who've actually shown in the primary, and I would reply to them, because I kind of feel obliged if I'm not replying to people. I feel like, oh, I've been on the other side. How can I not do it? But they would still sit in the primary even if they're third connection if LinkedIn or someone else has kind of not flagged it. Now, how do we know if someone's profile is flagged? Honestly, we don't until it's sit in the other and you realize, oh, and then you go to the profile and realize they have 93 connections and LinkedIn, and then you look at the activity because, and I want to put it out there, Mary, if people don't know that everybody can see what you're doing on LinkedIn. So if you go to
Yes.
my profile, or if I go to your profile and I scroll down, there's your activity, everything that you've liked, everything that you've posted.
So important to
I
notice.
know. And people think that people can't read it. And I go to the job seekers profile, and any only thing that I look at is they've liked a couple of posts, or they've posted their emails to someone who's claiming to give them a job if they post their emails, right? And I'm not against it. I totally get that. But I'm also trying to understand, are you a professional who's interested in good content,
Mm,
industry information? Are you connected to good industry people? And if
yeah.
you're not, again, I'm not going to cancel your candidature. That's never going to happen that I'm going to cancel your application. But if I'm trying to find you as a recruiter, then probably those things are going to matter to me a little, a tiny little. That's going to matter to me, right? And probably you would be the number second, and the number first would be someone who's engaging in those and like, popping up on my search a little bit earlier.
Yes.
So
And let's just put a point and a pen on that, because if you are out there using LinkedIn right now, and let's say, heaven forbid, you've been through a very recent layoff, and layoffs are hard and difficult and emotional times for a lot of people. And you're in LinkedIn and you're liking and commenting when other people are commenting and saying very negative things about maybe their past employer or just having a crappy day. And you're liking those posts and commenting and perpetuating the negative nonsense out there. People can see it. Every single thing you post and you like and you repost, They see it. So that, to your point, puts off an air of negativity, and no one wants to interview somebody quite like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, yes. And of course, I don't speak for every company, every recruiter, but I do speak for some of us who think like you don't have to indulge in a negative conversation all the time. You really have to pick your battles. And if you think you have so much energy because now you really want to get a job, I totally understand. I've been there. If you go to my profile, I've been like, without jobs because of visas. So I decided to not indulge in those negative conversations because that's not the people I want to be connected with, first of
That's
all.
it.
Second, I'm not saying that don't have opinions. All of us have it, right? Like I said, like I went to someone and I was like, "Oh, I don't care about your opinion. I'm still going to post things because this is how I like it and I want people to know what happens on the other side because I've been on both sides of the table." But no one's asking you to not have opinions. Remember, you're a professional and a human both. We talk a
Yes.
lot about us being human and sharing emotions. I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But never forget that you're a professional as well, for a company or for yourself. It doesn't matter if a company gives you a job or not, that's secondary. But you cannot leave that line because why?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we so angry about everything? Like generally on LinkedIn, I go and everybody's angry. Somebody's angry about the company, somebody's angry about one specific layoff situation. I get it. No one person is regulating it. We can't pinpoint out like you did it or I did it. Don't be angry. Try being someone's support system. If you can't be that, then sit back. Time would come and you would shine. You don't
Yeah.
have to put your energy to a negative use just yet.
So let's switch gears here. And I 100% agree with everything you just said. 1,000%. So you've applied for the job. You
Yeah.
have made contact with the recruiter, but you
Yeah.
don't exactly know if they're the right recruiter or not. And hopefully they've responded back. So if you use an in-mail credit and the person doesn't respond back, you can't send them another message until they respond.
Yeah.
So how, let's say you found out who the recruiter is now for this role. How often should someone follow up with that recruiter after they've submitted the application? What's
So
your take on that?
yeah, so if you've already submitted the application and you've sent the email, you're not hearing back, one, there is no other way to contact them,
Yeah.
unfortunately, because they're not accepting that request and they're not accepting maybe because they've read the email and then they know that you're going to ask a follow up question that they probably can't answer because even if they've looked at resume and it doesn't fit well, they can't say that on LinkedIn. They'll probably send you a very formal rejection letter, right,
Mhm.
through their system. That's
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Second, if they have accepted it and you want to like still keep asking because you haven't heard anything formally through the system, then I would probably say give them 7 days at least after applying. Why? Because if you were their top candidates, they would have reached out to you. Sorry, they would have had.
Mhm.
If they were in that SOS that, oh, I want somebody right now, they would have reached out to you. They wouldn't have taken 7 days. And I'm not speaking it from the recruiter's perspective. I'm speaking it from the team, from the company's perspective. If they really want someone, they would reach out to you the first day. I have reached out to the people the same day they have applied because I know there's a good fit and I want them on my calendar as soon as possible so that next time I meet the hiring manager, I can say that, listen, I have 5 great profiles. I'm working on them, right? Because it's my work as well. I'm not against you all. I am with you all because I want to get this filled as much as you want the role,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So 1 week, at least give them a week to do it. Now, if you've reached out within a week, they've still not replied, then probably after 4 days, be like, hey, this probably would be my last attempt to try and get in try and get in connection with you because I understand you've been busy. I just want to understand because I haven't yet received a formal rejection. So I wanted to understand if there's still a scope because I'm really interested and bringing this to the table. Now try within those 14 days of like the 10 days and 5 days. Um, that's not math, but try between those 14 days that you try finding out something about the role, about the company, or about anything that actually makes you stand out. So you can
Yeah.
be like, oh, I've worked on the project that the team is working on currently, and I think I'll be a great addition.
Yep.
But I wait to hear from you. Now what you're doing is you're, one, being human, that hey, I understand, I don't know what's happening. 2, I'm being professional, that hey, this is what it is, but I'm also adding more to it because now I understand what the team is working. So you did your part, and then you coming back with more information for the recruiter that, hey, why are you losing? I'm here. This is what I've done. You
Mhm.
don't snooze, don't lose, kind of. And then if they don't reach out, you just have to be okay with it that you might not be the great fit, or they actually found their great fit before you actually applied for them.
Yeah. And that's a lot of times the case because it was an internal referral or somebody internally shifting from a different department into there. And they still had to legally bound to post the job publicly as well. I think that's great
Right.
advice. So I want to switch gears now to talk about interviewing. So you've landed
Yes.
the recruiter call or the first interview with a hiring manager. How can a candidate stand out in the interview process? How do they, in your words, prep, perform, and polish their techniques?
Oh, I like that. I love that we're bringing that analogy because I always tell my clients to do that. First is prep, as in know your job description really well, know what kind of projects you want to talk about when you're speaking with that recruiter, and how do you do that? Have a cheat sheet, and this is gold. Have a cheat sheet, write down all the projects and experiences or challenges that you've been part of. Write it down on a piece of paper, explain it in like 3 or 4 or 5 bullet points that you would want a recruiter to know about.
Mm.
Why does it matter? Because then you're just prepping your cheat sheet for the exam, like you prepare for an exam, right? So whenever you're having a conversation, it doesn't feel like this is the first time. Give me 5 seconds to think, give me 10 seconds to think, and then you're blabbering because you have
Mhm.
so much, you just don't know which one to say, right? So have the cheat sheet ready. I mean, do not miss on that at all. That's one. When you're performing, how do you perform before you perform? Go in front of the mirror, say out loud all your answers. So ask yourself, tell me about yourself, and then answer it for 2.5 minutes, 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes,
Mm.
depending on your years of work experience. If you're anywhere around 5 years of experience, I would say 3 minutes, 3.5 minutes is good time to, tell me about yourself question. Then go ask yourself a question which are like the 10, 12, 15 behavioral questions. Why? Because now you're performing before you're actually performing, right? You're just doing it. So like look at your body's language, look at your eye contact, look if you're like doing this, because I can hear a candidate if they're doing this at the back end and I'm like, oh, they're anxious, they're nervous, then I'll tell them like, hey, take a deep breath, it's a conversation, it's absolutely okay,
Yeah.
because I'm big on candidate experience. A lot of recruiters might not check that because they have hundreds other things that they're doing. So right now their human aspect probably wouldn't kick in, they don't only the professional aspects that.
Mm.
So prep really, really well, like perform really, really well. Time yourself. So right now, if I would say I've been talking for 2 minutes, a lot of you are like, oh, that's great information. A lot of you all might be, oh my God, she's speaking for 2 minutes. It's too much, right? So it's engaging or it's not, it's on you. That's the storytelling piece of it. Are you making it engaging or are you not making it engaging? And you wouldn't know until you stand in front of a mirror or record yourself or time yourself or look at how the other person is perceiving you, right? And I'll tell you a secret. I do this every day, every day. I
Mm.
sit with a topic, something that I'm reading, something that bothers me, can be personal, can be professional. And I stand in front of the mirror and I see my body language. I record myself, right? I time myself because then I want to understand, am I improving every day, right? So that's extremely important. That's we talk about prep, perform. What's polishing? That's practicing, of course. But now you've actually given an interview. Now you come back, you sit with all the thoughts, which is what questions were asked, what kind of answers did you give? Were you able to talk about all the experiences that you wanted to talk about? Were you able to ask questions that you wanted to ask? Do you have a clear understanding of what the interview process looks like? Do you have a clear understanding of what team are you getting hired for? And then write it all down. What did not work well? What could have gone well? What were the actual challenges? And then understand that did you understand their questions correctly? Another thing is a lot of people like, oh, this is a question, I'll start answering, blah, blah, blah. Don't. If you did not understand the question, wait, pause, and be like, hey, can you paraphrase it? I did not understand it. It's a very
Mm.
simple technique, but a lot of people start just answering and then they realize, oh, did I answer it correctly? Can you tell me
Mm.
again? Like, can you ask it again? Don't, because you wasted 3 minutes and time is not important. Their engagement is important, right? So I would say prep, be ready, perform, like do the mock with yourself. You don't have to find industry experts. It's okay if you don't want to find industry experts, but then find if you can. And then polish, come back, sit with the reflection, sit with the feedback, and then use it all over again. Because it's okay for you to be critical for yourself, but as soon as someone else become the critic, you're not okay with it. A lot of us are not okay with it, right? I in the earlier in the early um years of my career, I was not okay with someone else being critical with me, so I wasn't
Mm.
growing. But then I started with the mirror technique, and I realized that how okay I was with the critic, because I'm growing as a person. So you start from there. If you don't want someone else's feedback, start with your own feedback.
And I think it's great advice when you break it down in that simple three terms: prep, perform, and polish. It really makes me think of Malcolm Gladwell's 10,000 hours concept. It takes 10,000 hours to get from being a novice to being an expert and doing it. And you just have to do the thing over and over and over again. So the first time you try to answer a question for a job interview, it's very scary and you want to say all the right things. You want to make a big impression and blah, 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 blah. And you're just, your shoulders are way up here and you're
Oh,
nervous and you're sweating and all that. But the 10th, 20th, 50th time that you've rehearsed the "so tell me about yourself" question, you're a lot more at ease. And that's the finesse. That's what makes you, the true you, come out. You are not, memorizing lines necessarily, but it's coming and flowing out of you naturally so that it is a conversation, a two-way rapport between you and who is interviewing with you, right?
right, absolutely. And because we always talk about do's and then I always talk about the don'ts, I really want to say that as well. Don't take the interview as a one-sided conversation.
Yeah.
Don't think like, oh, the interview is going to ask me a question. I got to have everything ready. No. It's going to be 45 minutes, 25 minutes of two people having conversation, trying to find out, can we add value to each other's next step? Right? So the team's next step would be finding someone. Your next step would be finding a role. Can we add value to each other's next step? So you definitely want to take it as what are they adding to you, and the vice versa. The other don't for the interview would be, or your confidence, communication, storytelling would be, don't just practice it when you're having a professional conversation. Practice it all the time. Practice
Mm-hmm.
it when you're speaking with a family member, practicing when you're speaking with yourself. I talk a lot with my TV because I like that. So when I'm speaking with the TV and something is happening, I was like, how dare you do that? So I wouldn't go, like, I would still be in that aura of like, oh, this is a storytelling piece of it. I don't want to say something which I would not otherwise. So
Mm.
practice it all the time. Don't just practice it during those professional conversations. And I really love when you said this, because I used to do it. And my mentor is like, what happened to your shoulders? And I was like, nothing. It's like, pull them down. And I was like, now it looks so different. And then I know people who are nervous, they would keep on switching back and front on a chair, or if they're standing, they would keep on doing that. And unfortunately, a recruiter kind of catches up on all of those things, an interviewer catches up on all of those things. And it's only human to do it, but it's only also human to practice it and not do it. You just decide which side of being human do you want to be at. Do you want to just live with it because, hey, I'm a human? Or do you want to be like, hey, I'm a human, I can actually develop an habit and or change it as well? So I
Mm.
would say the don'ts are also important as the do's.
And I know we have to wrap up here soon, but what do you feel is the top mistake that candidates make while on that first call, that screening call with a recruiter?
They do not set the expectations of the conversation with
Mm.
themselves. They don't come up with the best stories. They think that, oh, the recruiter might not get it. I would speak to the interviewer about this project. So I would say when you bring in those stories for the recruiter, and mostly the recruiters would ask behavioral questions, right? 5 or 6 of them, because that's how much time we usually have, 25, 30 minutes. I would say bring in the best projects, but do not get into the details of the processes. Just talk about who you were in that project, what was the situation, and what was the impact. Just these three things, and nothing else is required. Because I may not be an expert, the recruiter might not be an expert, Mary,
Yeah.
but they know what they want because they've had multiple conversations with the hiring manager before speaking to a candidate, right? They exactly know. If they've chosen your resume and if they were speaking with them, they might not be an expert, but they definitely know who they want, who the hiring manager would want. So do not maybe get into the processes per se, but definitely talk about your most important project. So that's the mistake that people do, that they just talk about behavioral. So like, let's say if somebody would ask, what has been the most challenging role for you? So they won't talk about an example, which is their work example. They'll just probably talk about the very generic, oh, challenges are normal. We've experienced this. I am a learner. I will do this. Okay, yes to all of that. But can you show a practical implication? So I
Yeah.
want you all to share practical implications, but in a sense which shows and highlights you to be a great candidate. But do not do it without practice. This should not be the first time you're saying that out loud. You should have said that out loud multiple times so that when it comes out, like you said, it feels natural.
And so, if you are curious about the work that Shreya is doing out in the world, especially if you're a job seeker right now and you're feeling a bit stuck, I highly recommend getting connected with her. All the links are in the show notes over at thesimplifiers.com, but she's got 3 great ebooks right on her website that you can download specifically for resume tips, action verbs to use in writing your resume, and also just tips on how to optimize your LinkedIn profile so that it is actually working for you and not working against you when people and recruiters are searching out in the world. Also, she's got a newsletter that's bi-weekly that has lots of resources. And I believe in March, you're doing a masterclass on interview preparation with storytelling, right?
Yes, absolutely. Because now I think I understand that everybody, especially in this market, even if they have opportunities, Mary, they don't know how to cash it, how to get that offer. And I have clients who have like 10 years of work experience and they're brilliant. When I speak with them, otherwise they're brilliant. As soon as I sit with them in the mock interviews, I was like, why? Why are you saying this and what are you saying? And
Yeah.
then we actually create that structure, which is important. So I realized that I want to take it a notch up and then be like, let's talk about storytelling. And I'm not going to say for what part of interview, but I'm just going to talk about storytelling because I know that technical skills are as important as soft skills. I can't put a percentage on it, but both of that is equally important. So yes to that, because I know how important that is, especially for candidates out there in this crazy market.
Yes, 100%. And again, her website is coachshreyamehta.com. So I'll put those links in the show note for you guys so you can find her there as well as on LinkedIn. Now, Shreya, we have a couple of questions as we wrap up that we'd like to ask everybody when they're on the podcast. And again, thank you so much for your time
Right.
today. One, what is one book or blog that you're reading these days that's either inspiring you or poking holes and challenging your belief system?
Oh, I'm so glad that you asked because I love reading books, but there's something I really want to share with everybody, Marian. If you get an opportunity, you should listen to it as well.
Mm.
It's a YouTube video. It's called The Strongest Secret. And then, oh, I think it's called The Strangest Secret. I'm just looking at my notes. It's called The Strangest Secret. And it's by Earl Nightingale. And it's a very old video. And I think it's from the era when podcast was not even a thing. They speak about what's the strangest secret, and if you all listen to it, please let me or Mary know that that changed your life because it has been changing mine. But do not just listen to it; sit with yourself for 30-40 minutes, because that's how the video is. That's how long the video is, and then sit with a paper and pen, like she said earlier, because you would want to note it down. And I love it because it's given a direction to my mornings. It's given a direction to my day. So yes
I
to that.
love that. Yes. Well, we will link that up in the show notes so you guys can check that out. Tell us, who is one person in your network, somebody that you know personally that you feel is just up to brilliant things? We could shine a spotlight on them, and who knows, maybe one day we'll have them on the podcast.
Oh, okay. All right. So I have been speaking with Priya and Darshan. They have a Instagram channel which is called It's OKR. They also have their day jobs. Why do I love these people are because they are bringing in immense information for immigrants about
Mm.
visa, about life. And their channel kind of started with an idea of it says it's OKR. That means it's absolutely okay to navigate changes, to work in a different country and how you can still prosper. So she started with that, but now she's immense information about it. So I love those people. I've worked with them, I've collaborated with them, and the information that they bring it's too good. So yeah, I would definitely want to highlight those people.
Awesome. We'll link them up in the show notes for you guys so you guys can connect with them as well. Gratitude, I believe gratitude and simplicity go hand in hand. Tell me, what are you grateful for today?
I would say I'm grateful for the strength that I have, that I get to navigate challenges and changes in a way that works out in a positive way. I always say, and when I say always, I say multiple times that I'm blessed, I'm privileged. I got to study. A lot of people don't get to do that. I got to be in a new country. I'm a trailing spouse, but I got to be in a new country. I actually took up on a new field completely. So I think I'm grateful that my heart and my mind know that wherever I am, I'll create something out of it. And I'm somehow very proud of it. And I'm somehow very proud of the fact that my parents have given me that cell in me that, hey, just do it. Just make the most out of it. So I think that's strength.
And we are super grateful for all the tips that you shared today. Incredible stuff for people to take back and really try out this week in their job search. So, my final question for you is this: someone somewhere is listening to you and I right now, and they're feeling a little bit stuck. They're like, oh, God, I got this big interview coming up. I'm really nervous. Am I going to really stand out on this? Is this the do or die moment to get it right and to get the job and figure things out? What's one thing that you could whisper into their ear right now just to encourage them in this moment?
I would probably say you got it, but you got to believe in it. And belief comes with confidence and practice. I would not stand on the top of the hill and jump from it thinking, God got me or I got it. My wings would open. No, I need to have a strategy. I need to have a plan. I need to have an idea what will go right, what might go wrong. So you got it because now you have done the prep and you have that belief. And I really want to say it. Nobody else is glorifying your work or highlighting your life if you are not. So go throw that spotlight on yourself.
Yeah.
Work hard for it. And when I say work hard, not the resume hard working, but work hard in the sense of researching, believing, and then applying all of it. So you got this. Just work towards it.
Shreya, thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you so much. I had such a great time having this conversation. I'm hopeful that it would be beneficial for everybody listening to this.
Awesome. Thank you.